Hey, today's Whispery History comes with a little bit of a content warning. If it bothers you to think of cute little furry creatures being hunted for sport, this might not be the story for you. If, however, you enjoy the idea of those cute little fur balls turning the tables on their hunters, this is probably going to be something you want to stick around for, because that is exactly what happened to Napoleon in 1807. Now, you all know who Napoleon was. He was a brilliant strategist, one of the greatest generals in history, who, during the French Revolution, rose through the ranks to make himself an emperor. Aside from being a great leader and a brilliant strategist, Napoleon implemented reforms that are still in effect to this day. A uniform system of laws and a state bank, a state education system, a centralized administration of government. His reforms influenced countries all over the world. A lot of people saw him as a hero, a liberator. In Poland, they celebrated him for expelling their Russian rulers, and Italy believed that he had freed them from Austrian rule, not to mention what the French thought of him. He did a lot of good in the years that led up to the Battle of Waterloo, where he was finally defeated by the Duke of Wellington and Marshal Blucher. But a few years before that, he'd met a far more formidable foe in the furry-faced, twitchy little noses of bunny rabbits. So, the year is 1807. Napoleon has just brokered the treaties of Tilsit, which effectively ended hostilities between the French Empire and the Imperial Russia and Prussia. Napoleon was proud of himself, and rightfully so. People were thrilled with him. There's a fabulous medallion that was painted of Napoleon embracing Alexander I. They totally look like they're about to kiss. But bromance aside, though, it was time for a celebration. And Napoleon decides that he wants to engage in one of his favorite pastimes in order to celebrate this momentous event. And one of his favorite pastimes was hunting. It wasn't uncommon for the aristocracy of the time to have hunting parties. And as much as Napoleon rose to the ranks of a war that was all about taking down the aristos, Napoleon really did sort of emulate them in a lot of ways. His court was lavish, and he was literally making new princes to replace the old. One of them was his chief of staff, Alexandre Bautier, who had just been given the title of Prince of Neuchâtel. Well, Bautier really wanted to thank Napoleon for that, so he invites Napoleon and his party to his park in Paris for a rabbit hunting event. At the time, rabbits were the most common game eaten in France, so he figured getting them couldn't be too difficult, right? And he wanted a lot. Like, a lot. Because, to be honest, Napoleon wasn't that great of a shot. I mean, he was good at directing people who were good shots, but he was not that great of a shot. The emperor, who had been called the Conqueror of Conquerors, had also been told by a prince that perhaps a man who hunts kings should not hunt deer. But Bautier, the new Prince of Neuchâtel, was not going to let Napoleon's bad aim ruin a good time. He plans a big breakfast, and he arranges for 1,000 rabbits to be brought to the park. He figures with 1,000 rabbits in the park, Napoleon's got to hit something, right? I mean, in theory, yeah. Of course, getting 1,000 rabbits, that could be an issue, right? But nah, Buddy's got feelers out. He's bringing in rabbits from all over. 1,000 rabbits coming from far and wide just to be shot at by the new emperor. The day of the scheduled hunt arrives. The stage is set. The rabbits are trapped in cages all along the periphery of the field and ready to be released as soon as Bautier gives the command. Napoleon and his entourage have had a big breakfast. They're all in a good mood. And Bautier gives the signal. All at once the cages are opened. 1,000 rabbits are set free. But, as opposed to scurrying and fleeing for their lives, the rabbits did not scatter in fear. Instead, they turn as one on their hunters. They went running directly for Napoleon and his party. A mass of fluffy, twitchy-nosed bundles of hippity-hoppity chasing after Napoleon and his friends, who understandably tried to run. Clearly, these guys have never seen a Bugs Bunny cartoon, or they would have known that declaring rabbit hunting season is not as simple and straightforward as it would seem. So, these crafty little critters flip the script on you in a heartbeat, and that's what was happening to Napoleon. So in a classic move of rabbit season, human season, these rabbits are running at the humans. The rabbits hop, the rabbits run, the rabbits chase, the rabbits leap, the rabbits get between legs and make people stagger and fall. They chase the conqueror of conquerors and his men back to the carriages from whence they came. And when they beat them all the way back to the carriages, they get in the carriages with them. They chased them right into the carriages. The carriages take off, and the defeated Napoleon and his men are having to toss rabbits out of the window as they flee, until at last they were far enough to have outrun the bunnies. As Napoleon and his men were left to grapple with the absurdity of the encounter, inquiries were made. Basically, asking what the hell just happened. What the hell just happened with those rabbits? It didn't take long to find out. And gamekeepers who had released the rabbits, well, they knew exactly what had happened the moment it happened. In his eagerness to provide so many rabbits for Napoleon to shoot, but he never considered where he was getting the rabbits from, or what kind of rabbits he was getting. You see, getting 1,000 random wild rabbits, not so easy in a short period of time. Go figure. But getting 1,000 domestic rabbits, rabbits that were bred by humans, that wasn't so hard. The rabbits that had been in those cages waiting to be released, they were farm-bred animals. They had no fear of humans as hunters. Hell, they saw humans as a food source. And having come from a long distance away, having been kept in cages on the lawn waiting to be released for the hunt, those rabbits hadn't been fed in quite some time. They chased down their hunters as the nearest source of food for them. Can you imagine thinking of yourself as some big bad predator and a fluffy bunny sees you as a provider? As well respected as Napoleon was by his allies and his enemies alike, he was mocked for that. The conqueror of conquerors, conquered by bunnies. But, to be fair to Napoleon, I mean, if he'd raised his rifle, he probably would have hit one. I suppose it just goes to show. You can best armies and reshape nations. You can change the face of the world and history as we know it. But ain't nobody declaring rabbit season on Bugs Bunny without it flipping the script. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Whispery History. You take care.